Is this really how legends are supposed to say goodbye? After 15 years of spectacular saves, clutch performances, and carrying the hopes of an entire province on his shoulders, Carey Price's Montreal chapter has officially closed with a simple contract trade to San Jose. And honestly, it feels like watching your childhood hero quietly slip out the back door when nobody's looking. Friday, September 6th, 2025, will go down as one of the most bittersweet days in recent Canadiens history. The organization that Price bled for, that he dragged kicking and screaming to a Stanley Cup final just 4 years ago, has officially moved on. They traded his $10.5 million contract, along with a 2026 fifth-round pick, to the San Jose Sharks in exchange for 22-year-old defenseman Gannon Laroque. Let's be brutally honest about what just happened here. This wasn't about hockey strategy or roster construction or finding the perfect trade partner. This was pure salary cap mathematics, cold and calculated. The kind of business decision that makes perfect sense on paper, but leaves your soul feeling a little emptier. Price hasn't stepped on NHL ice since 2022, when that devastating knee injury essentially ended what should have been the twilight years of a Hall of Fame career. He's been on long-term injury reserve ever since. His body unable to handle the demands of elite goaltending anymore. But here's what makes this trade so uniquely painful for Canadiens fans. Everyone knew this day was coming, yet somehow it still feels shocking. The mechanics of this deal tell you everything about where both franchises stand right now. Montreal just paid Price a $5.5 million signing bonus on September 1st, then immediately turned around and shipped his contract to California. San Jose, desperate to reach the NHL salary floor, was more than happy to take on the remaining $2 million for the rest of the season. It's a win-win transaction that somehow feels like everyone lost something important. For Montreal, this move frees up just over $4.5 million in precious cap space, giving them flexibility they desperately need as they continue their rebuild. But let's talk about what they're really getting in return. Gannon Laroque, born in Edmonton, was a fourth-round pick by San Jose in 2021. Last season, he managed 1 goal and 1 assist in 9 games with the San Jose Barracuda, the Sharks' AHL affiliate. On paper, Laroque represents exactly what modern NHL teams covet: a young, cost-controlled asset with upside potential. At 22, he's entering the final year of his entry-level contract, carrying a cap hit of just over $800,000. For a franchise that's been methodically stockpiling prospects and draft picks, he fits the timeline perfectly. But here's what the spreadsheets can't capture. Carey Price wasn't just a goaltender in Montreal. He was a franchise's emotional anchor for over a decade. The guy who stood tall when everything around was crumbling. The last connection to an era when the Canadiens were legitimate Stanley Cup contenders. Think back to that magical 2021 playoff run, when Price single-handedly willed this team to the Stanley Cup final. Remember those impossible saves against Vegas, the way he stood on his head against Tampa Bay, how he made an entire city believe that maybe, just maybe, they could bring the cup back to Montreal for the first time since 1993. That wasn't just elite goaltending. That was pure hockey poetry. And before that injury derailed everything, Price's resume read like a goaltending masterclass. The 2014-15 season alone should be enough to guarantee his spot in the Hall of Fame. 44 wins, a .933 save percentage, a 1.96 goals against average, and virtually every major goaltending award you can win. The Hart Trophy, the Vezina, the Ted Lindsay Award, the Jennings Trophy. He swept the board because he was simply untouchable that year. Over his 15-year career, all spent in Montreal, Price appeared in 712 regular season games, winning 361 of them with a .917 save percentage. In the playoffs, where legends are truly made, he showed up when it mattered most. 92 appearances, 43 wins, and countless moments that will live forever in Canadiens folklore. The financial details of his departure paint a picture of just how much this organization invested in their franchise goaltender. That 8-year, $84 million contract he signed back in July 2017 was one of the largest in team history. A statement that the Canadiens were betting their future on Price's ability to carry them to championship glory. Now, the final year of that massive deal belongs to San Jose, a rebuilding franchise that needed Price's contract to meet salary floor requirements but will likely never see him play a single game. It's the kind of ironic twist that only professional sports can deliver. For Laroque, this trade represents the opportunity of a lifetime. Going from the Sharks organization to the storied Canadiens franchise is like jumping from a regional theater company to Broadway. The pressure will be intense, the expectation sky high, but the chance to develop within one of hockey's most historic organizations could be exactly what his career needs. The timing of this move also speaks volumes about where Montreal sees itself in its rebuilding timeline. They're clearly prioritizing cap flexibility and future assets over nostalgia and emotional attachments. It's the kind of ruthless pragmatism that successful rebuilds require, but it doesn't make watching your heroes leave any easier. What makes this whole situation even more poignant is knowing that Price's body simply couldn't give him the farewell tour he deserved. There was no retirement ceremony, no final game at the Bell Center, no chance for the fans to properly say goodbye to the man who gave them so many incredible memories. Instead, we're left with a contract trade that officially closes the book on one of the most important chapters in recent Canadiens history. Price will always be remembered as a goaltender who almost single-handedly brought the Stanley Cup back to Montreal, the guy who stood tall when the pressure was at its peak, the last true superstar of this franchise's glory years. As for what comes next, both Price and the Canadiens will move forward into uncertain territory. He'll likely never play again, but his legacy in Montreal is secure. The organization, meanwhile, continues its methodical rebuild, hoping that prospects like Laroque can eventually help bring championship hockey back to the Bell Center. This trade might make perfect sense from a business perspective, but it still feels like the end of an era. What are your thoughts on seeing Carey Price's contract move to San Jose? Do you think Montreal made the right call, or should they have found a way to keep their legend's contract at home? Let us know in the comments and hit that like button if you'll always remember Price as one of the greatest Canadiens of all time.